Welcome everyone to tonight's insider briefing about rehoming the wildlife way station chimps. This meeting is being recorded, as you just heard, so we will be sharing the recording with those folks that couldn't make it. You are muted right now, and you will stay muted through the presentation just because there are so many attendees. We don't want anyone talking over anyone else, but you can always ask questions through the chat box or leave us comments. We love seeing those too. And oftentimes we're able to answer your questions as we go, either verbally or in responding by typing. And we'll also have time at the end for Q&A. We have Cassie Carter from Campbell and Company, our fundraising consultant, who's managing the slideshow and the questions as they arrive. And please be sure to stay on until the end because we have some really big, exciting news to share. Now, my name is Erica Fleury. I am the program director of the North American Primate Sanctuary Alliance, or NAPSA. NAPSA is leading this campaign, and I'm joined by a few of my friends and colleagues as well. So with me today is Ed Pert from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Kate Thompson, the last active board member of the Wildlife Way Station, and Diana Goodrich from Chimpanzee Sanctuary Northwest. I'll let Ed introduce himself and the group can follow.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ed Pert. I'm the regional manager for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife South Coast region. I am also the department's project manager for the Wildlife Way Station project.
Kate, how about you?
I'm Kate Thompson. I'm the last active board member of the Wildlife Way Station, and I will be staying on until the last of the way station animals are successfully relocated.
And Diana.
Hi, thank you guys for jumping on this call. We really appreciate you being here. My name is Diana Goodrich, and I am the co-director, along with my husband, of Chimpanzee Sanctuary Northwest.
Great, thanks guys. So after some months of staying quiet as we worked on things strategically, sort of behind the scenes, we are very excited to bring back our insider briefing series tonight and share some news with you about the Chimpanzees in Need campaign. So many of you have been with us since the very beginning of this effort, and I see a lot of you on the call tonight, so we want to thank you. And we're just so thrilled to share that we've made a lot of progress and are finally very close to successfully rehoming all of the Wildlife Way Station chimpanzee. Now, today's briefing is a little different than our past ones. In honor of the passing of the Way Station's founder, Martine Collette, in January, we're going to start the conversation today with a look at the history of the Wildlife Way Station and the journey we've taken to come to this point today. So I'll pass it over to Kate Thompson, the last remaining board member at the Wildlife Way Station, an amazing, incredibly dedicated person and a dear friend of the Chimpanzees in Need campaign.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, my name's Kate. I'm the last active board member of the Way Station. I became involved with the Way Station in 2011, helping with social media campaigns and awareness. And I became involved with the board in 2017. And like I said, won't be going anywhere until the last of the animals are successfully relocated. The Way Station began in 1965 as founder Martine Collette slowly began rescuing and caring for exotic animals that many of the Hollywood elite thought would make good house cats or house pets. Land became an issue. She needed more space, so it later was incorporated in 1976. She bought a 160-acre plot of land in Los Angeles National Forest. The sanctuary would go on to be nationally and internationally recognized as one of the first of its kind. And throughout the years, over 77,000 orphaned, abused, and injured animals all found safety care and refuge through those gates. It was also one of the first sanctuaries to receive and care for chimpanzees used in lab research. So for those of you who don't know, our founder, Martine, passed away a few months ago, and I would like to take a moment to remember her. She dedicated 45 years to rescuing animals in need. She believed it was critical to inspire that love of nature in the future generations so that the youth could grow up to be the wildlife warriors that are so necessary and we need so much today. She was incredibly passionate in her need to provide sanctuary to the animals suffering at the hands of humanity. For example, she organized and led the caravan to aid in the rescue of 27 big cats from the infamous Ligertown game farm in Idaho. And in 1995, she was the first to accept chimpanzees from biomedical research. In the years to come, she became an expert in chimp behavior and an outspoken advocate for them. Some of her closest bonds were with her new residents, especially Shasha, who she affectionately held closer in her heart than any of them. Well, it's not true. All of them she loved, but she's going to be remembered in our hearts and is now with all of the beloved animals that she rescued throughout the decades. And I'm just truly, she was one of the strongest women that I know, and I deeply miss her. And she left an amazing legacy behind. So the past few years, as you can imagine, have been full of heartbreak and sadness as we close our doors, but there's also resilience and hope. Our staff, such as Onhair Flores right here, the senior compound manager and chimp whisperer, they're some of the most dedicated, selfless people. It's been such a privilege to learn from them and work beside them. They've fought through multiple fires to defend the animals. They've waded through floods, and I know that they would stay without pay, even though fortunately we have been able to keep the staff on payroll, which is a huge accomplishment for us. As the chimps wait to be moved, they're cared for by people who have known them the longest in life. This is Rafa making funny faces with Caleb. Caleb was rescued from the entertainment industry and has a very close bond with all of his caregivers. I truly believe that the chimps take comfort in the familiar faces. These are bonds that have been formed over decades. And I know that the goodbyes for both chimp and caregiver are going to be hard. But when we see the new lives awaiting our chimps at their new sanctuary homes, as you will momentarily see from what the photos that Diana has to show you, our hearts are just, we're filled with joy, and we're really happy for them. Over the years, the location of the way station has put the sanctuary in worsening danger. We have access to water that's difficult. The terrain is isolating, wildfire and floods are becoming more prevalent, and the retirement of our founder a few years ago left the ruling bodies in a disorganized state, which in turn made the way station vulnerable to people who had their own ideas of what the future of the way station should look like. The fallout left the way station in the worst financial state possible. And in August of 2019, the damage left the board with no other choice but to surrender our permit to Fish and Wildlife for the safety of our animals. We did not know if and when we could get more money to come in, and it wasn't worth the risk. So once we surrendered our permit, Fish and Wildlife was able to bring in funds from the state of California to help us start the relocation process. So since then, we've been working in partnership with CDFW to rehome all of our animals to new sanctuaries. And I'm really happy to say that almost all of them have been moved at this point. It's been a challenging few years, but it would not have been possible without our committed staff and our diehard supporters that are still helping us. Campaigns like Chimps in Need and California Fish and Wildlife as well. Finally, I would like to say thank you to anybody that has supported us, either directly through the way station, through the Chimps in Need campaign, or by donating to the sanctuaries who have been receiving our animals. Our office staff is virtually non-existent in order to preserve funds only for absolutely necessary animal-related costs. We don't really have anybody working admin. Our thank you cards and newsletter updates are virtually non-existent, but our hearts overflow with gratitude, and your donations and actions keep the way station motto, deeds not words, alive. So with that, thank you again. And I'd like to pass it off to the man who has kept me calm and pulled me through the hardest days of the past few years, Ed Pert.
Well, thank you, Kate. I really appreciate that. And again, thanks everyone for coming. Like Kate mentioned, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife got involved in this project because we permitted the wildlife way station under what we call a restricted species permit. And when they closed, they had to surrender that permit to the department. And we assumed responsibility for most of those animals. And at the time, it was very rocky. You can imagine how a transition like that goes. And thanks to Kate and a few others, we've been able to not only work together, but develop a great working relationship. And really, because of Kate and a couple other folks, that's the only reason we've been able to keep this thing going and make it successful. So thank you very much, Kate, for all of your just commitment and love for the animals and sticking around. So I know that many of you have probably attended at least one of our insider briefings before, so I'm going to try to be really brief with my comments and just let you all know it's true that we want the remaining chimps to be moved as soon as possible, but just like Kate mentioned, it's not because the chimps are not well cared for. As you saw before, those way station staff are just fantastic. They're super experienced. They're just super caring and competent. Some of those folks have been there for over 30 years. And to me, when I go there and see those folks having been there that long, it just amazes me every time. So there's no concern for the chimps at the way station now, but there are definitely a number of reasons why we want to move those chimps as soon as possible. First, again, as Kate mentioned, there's a real risk of wildfire at the way station, and those who have been there understand why that's the case just with its location. And the longer the chimps are there, the greater the chances that we're going to have to deal with a fire and either evacuate or ride it out, and that really worries us. So we want to move those chimps as quickly as possible. Second, as you're going to see in a moment, or if you've gone on the internet to see some of the videos of where the chimps have gone, the new homes where the chimps are going to go are just much more modern than the facilities that are currently at the way station. The way station facilities were built long ago and they were state of the art at the time. But when you see Diana's presentation, you're going to see how great that space is for the chimps now, and it really warms your heart. And then third, it's expensive to maintain these chimps. As I've mentioned before, it's about $3,000 a month per chimp to care for them. And these expenses just include all kinds of things like, you know, luckily we can pay the staff, but there's property taxes, there's insurance, there's food, water, security, you know, vehicle repair, utilities, the whole bit. So it's expensive. And so both the state of California and Wildlife Way Station are currently providing the funding for all of the chimp care. And we really don't know how much longer we're going to be supported adequately to continue to do that. So the sooner that we can move the chimps, the better it's going to be for them. And also, I think the cheaper it's going to be for this particular endeavor. And so, again, the bottom line is the chimps need to be moved quickly, but they're in great hands. And I look forward to answering any questions, to seeing the rest of this. I want to thank all of you so much for all of your support. We just couldn't have done it without you. I can't emphasize that enough. So thank you. And then I'm going to hand it back to Erica now, who, like all these folks on the call, have just been instrumental in making this project happen. It's so gratifying, and thank you very much for keeping it going until we can get those chimps to their final homes.
Thank you. And I have to say, Ed has also kept me sane on the hard days. I know Kate said that, and I'm copying her, but it's so true. We've had a roller coaster. And we've said all along that it truly takes a village. It's so true. You can see some of the logos here of the entities involved in making this work. So Chimpanzees in Need is a joint rescue effort of NAPSA, the campaign's fiscal sponsor, nonprofit Seventh Generation Advisors, along with national chimp experts who have guided the placement, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the Wildlife Way Station, of course. The sanctuary is taking the chimps, as well as those helping us transport them, which is a whole undertaking in and of itself, and the consultants helping us lead the fundraiser. This campaign was an emergency response to the sudden and unexpected closure of the way station back in 2019. At the time, there were 475 animals living there. And, we're so grateful that Fish and Wildlife stepped in to immediately oversee the animals' care and future placement. Most of those animals were rehomed relatively quickly, and that's fantastic. But there were 42 chimpanzees there with nowhere for them to go. And that's when NAPSA got involved. One of those chimpanzees ended up passing away of natural causes, so we had 41. But chimpanzee sanctuaries in the United States were all at capacity, and so were zoos. A solution was desperately, desperately needed. Thanks to funding from the Arcus Foundation, NAPSA was able to hire fundraising consultants to guide this effort, as well as public relations consultants to help us get the message out, and for us all to determine the best path forward, which has involved procuring placement for the different groups of chimps at trusted, accredited sanctuaries. And you'll hear from one of them in just a little bit, each of whom, though, needed time and funding to build the expensive enclosures required by the the extensive needs of captive chimpanzees. And of course, this all happened right when COVID paused the entire world, which drastically impacted our fundraising abilities and completely threw all of our plans out the window. But through that adventure, we've all certainly bonded and come out stronger. And to date, we have raised over $3.8 million and rehomed 23 of those chimpanzees. So 18 of them remain today. And in just a little bit, you'll hear where they're going. The chimpanzees that we've rescued thus far are truly thriving in their new homes. And every time we see the photos of them enjoying their new lives, my heart and that of Ed and Kate and everyone else working on this campaign just fills with happiness, and it fuels us to keep going. One of the more public rescues of the wildlife way station chimps was that of the Lucky Six. That was 6 chimpanzees who moved to Chimpanzee Sanctuary Northwest in Washington just about a year ago. And there they joined 3 other way station chimps who had been rescued in 2019, right as the way station shut down. And that was Willie B, Honeybee, and Maeve, who were already at that sanctuary. So you might have watched a little bit about the Lucky Six on the NBC 30-minute special called Down to Earth with Dagmar. It's really good. If you haven't seen it yet, it's still airing here and there, but you can also catch it on our website and watch the whole thing at chimpsinneed.org. So now I know everyone enjoys looking at chimpanzees. So Diana, can you tell us how they're doing?
I would be delighted. Yes. So these images of Willie B, Honeybee, and Maeve are actually postcards that we made up. And while they're not always angelic, I think it captures, the photos themselves capture their personalities. So Maeve is just a big fluffy person who loves everyone, and she's been really integral in the introduction process, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. Honeybee is incredibly smart and very interested in what the humans are doing all the time. Willie B's kind of the strong, silent type, but loves to watch videos. And we were in a very unique position in 2019 when Wildlife Way Station was closing. These photos show kind of where they moved into. So this was the first phase of an expansion that we had been working on prior to even learning about Wildlife Way Station's closure. And we had taken care of 7 chimps since 2008, and we're just looking to be able to make a home for more chimps. And when we learned of Wildlife Way Station closing, we immediately went to California and met all the chimps there and talked to the caregivers. And it seemed like this small group of 3 would be great for fitting into our new space. So this was the photo of Maeve there with the bag. That was their first Christmas celebration at the sanctuary. A lot of our photos are Willie B eating because he very much enjoys food. And then Honeybee is the acrobat. That's up in our, what we call the mezzanine area. And you can see it has like bars overhead. So there's a lot of different ways that the chimps navigate their enclosures. So we were really happy to be able to provide a home for these 3 chimps and continue our expansion so that we could care for more chimps coming out of Wildlife Way Station. So that would be the Lucky 6 that came last year that Erica mentioned. So that's Cy, Lucky, Dora, Rain, Gordo, and Terry. Cy's the leader of that group. Lucky is his half sister. And it turns out that Terry and Dora actually lived with Honeybee and Willie B when they were younger, and Maeve lived with Gordo. So they knew each other from way back, from living together in different groups, different configurations at Wildlife Way Station. So for the past few months, we've been doing a slow integration process where they've kind of met each other one-on-one in small groups. And just over the last 13 days, the groups have been living together as 9. And there's actually a blog post today. We post up to the blog every day. Our website is chimpsnw.org, and it's about how we're a little bit superstitious about things. So I'm just going to knock on wood that things are really well with integration. And this video shows Maeve and Rain playing. This is from our security cameras. We've been doing a lot of monitoring of them. So Maeve is the fluffy one on the left, and Rain is playing with her. And this is what we call the artificial tree structure in their greenhouse habitat. So they are having a great time playing, and Rain has been super playful with all three of her new friends. She's been a good welcoming committee. So you can kind of see the greenhouse from above with this video. And then here's some more photos of their habitats. So Rain is the top left there, and she really loves being up high on the leaves of the tree in the playroom. And you can see that huge group grooming up there on the ledges. That's Sai in the middle with a whole bunch of presents, which he definitely deserves. And then Gordo, we planted some bamboo and some grass in the greenhouses. So they're kind of getting used to being on that surface. And you can see the photo of what we call the greenhouse, and that was before we put the panels on. So we put polycarbonate panels over that structure, and it keeps things warm during the winter, and then we're actually able to heat it too. So that's probably their favorite space. What's the next slide? So this shows a huge grooming party. This again was after our integration. So Maeve is grooming Rain, and Sai's back there. There's another chimp in the middle. It's at this point, it's hard to see even with all these 9 chimps. Sometimes the other day there were actually all 9 on that platform in the greenhouse. It was awesome. And like I mentioned before, Honeybee really enjoys interacting with humans. And so we have these chimp-proof windows. And this is, the top photo is our colleague Jen Firestein, who was helping us with the integration. She has a lot of experience putting chimp groups together. And then the bottom photo is one of our staff members, her daughter met Honeybee, and they were both very delighted to meet each other. So right now we're working on building more space for them. We want to be able to give them a fully outdoor area with planted vegetation and climbing structures. And so we're concentrating on that this summer. Prices for construction have gone up massively. So we're just doing what we can. And we hope to also build a closed top outdoor area on the other side of the building, so they have a little bit of choice. So those are our plans for the future. And you can see again, I think in the next slide, that the chimps really enjoy being in the indoor outdoor spaces. And we think they're gonna love being outside too. So we can't wait to make that happen for them. So I think, yeah, this one. So these are just 3 photos that I wanted to share. So the one on the left is Maeve and Honeybee, and it was a photo I just happened to catch after hours. Honeybee had gone to bed, and you can see how great a friend Maeve is there. She's grooming her. Gordo, he often sits like this. He loves to sit in cardboard boxes. So a lot of our photos on our blog are him in cardboard boxes. And then Dora, she's kind of like a very impish character and has been really playful with Honeybee the last few days, which has been great to see. So yeah, we're just so happy that we were able to help the chimps at Wildlife Way Station. And we care for 9 of them now at our sanctuary, but we met all of them, and we're equally as excited to see them going to other sanctuaries, accredited sanctuaries, and seeing how their new lives go.
Thank you, Diana. I think we need to start calling them the lucky 9, because they're all lucky that they ended up with you. Those are such great pictures. And everyone who hasn't looked at Diana's blog at chimpsnw.org, Sai in particular is the love of my life lately, and they keep posting photos of him reading, and they had a library themed birthday party for him, and it's just sweet, and he's clearly loving life there. So thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
So what's next? We have Elise here. She is going to be headed to her new home soon. There are 18 chimpanzees remaining at the way station right now, and our campaign is determined to rehome all 18 by the end of this year, so the wildlife way station can be completely shut down. Even just saying that feels a little bit surreal, because from the early days of this campaign, I see Ed nodding, because there were days when, we didn't know if we had enough money month to month to make sure the chimps had food and water. So to know that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel is just, I'm ecstatic over it. And so 11 of the remaining chimpanzees will go to Chimp Haven, like Elise here. That's a sanctuary based in Louisiana with over 300 chimpanzees. So they'll have lots of social opportunities there. And the Chimp Haven 11 are ready for transport in the fall, but we still need to raise about $125,000 to support their preparation expenses. So that's going to be a focus for us. And then there are 7 other chimps still at the way station. Now, that group of 7, we had been struggling to find an accredited sanctuary home that could take them, because the sanctuaries that have helped us so far, like Diana, could not responsibly take more. And we needed to find them a good home, because that's certainly what they deserve. So it's a group of 5 and a group of 2 chimps, 7 total. And we have a really big announcement to share about these chimps. I'm going to try not to get emotional. We are thrilled to announce to you tonight that those 7 will be headed to Save the Chimps quite soon. This is a NAPSA founding member sanctuary in Florida. The news is going to publicly break tomorrow, and you heard it here first. So you'll see lots of splashy updates tomorrow and this beautiful logo that they put together, because Save the Chimps is so excited to welcome them. And we're just, it's surreal that we have a solution for this group and that we can see them all sent to their new homes by the end of this year. We're working really hard to raise the money we need to ensure the chimps have what they need for the long term. So that includes moving those that haven't left the way station yet, supporting the cost of transport, and the new homes with our sanctuary partners, and the ongoing and significant cost of care for the chimps once they've arrived. So it's really important to point out now that all the funds that we've raised go directly to the chimpanzee care and rehoming efforts. No humans are being paid from this campaign, and our fundraising partner, Seventh Generation Advisors, is managing the funds pro bono. So to reiterate, the campaign is raising money for 3 important needs of the chimps: the construction of new homes and preparations at the sanctuaries, 1 year of their future care at those sanctuaries, and the cost of the current care at the way station while the construction is underway. So far, we've really benefited by the continued support of the way station itself, and that Fish and Wildlife is still able to support the current care of the chimpanzees, but we never know if that can continue. So we have to have funds set aside just in case that funding, goes away. So thank you for joining us tonight. All of the support we've received so far has been absolutely critical to our success. We're here because of you at this point. These 23 chimpanzees are safe because of you, and the 18 that still await their transport will be safe because of you as well. And so we have a little bit more to do, so we appreciate you hanging around with us and helping us get there and continuing to support this life-saving effort. So we have time now for questions. I see there's been some chat going on. So perhaps Cassie has some questions that she's been collecting, because I've been so busy talking, I haven't read the questions.
So Erica, right now, most of the chat is celebration for the news, and gonna try not to get emotional myself.
Yeah, I did.
I know, we're all gonna cry here together, like the 60 of us crying together, because we're happy. And just thrilled with what we're seeing. Lots of really wonderful kudos to for Diana and her blog and the stories that are shared on a regular basis. So let's see. One question is, what's our fundraising goal? What's left to raise for a couple of those different sections? So Erica, you talked about what we need to raise to move the chimps to Chimp Haven. And you talked about this amount that we need for each chimp for ongoing care, which I believe each chimp, we're committed to raise 100,000 for each sanctuary per chimp.
It's 20. It's actually, no, it's 25,000 per chimp.
25,000 per chimp. I'm sorry.
And a few of the sanctuaries don't need that. So what I can share is that we call it the future care. So it's 25,000 per chimp. One of the sanctuaries, Chimp Haven, actually doesn't need that because they built their budget differently. So long story short, I believe it's 540,000 more that we need to raise for their future care. Overall, including that future care, we need to raise about 715,000 more. That's a lot of money for sure, but compared to what we've already raised, it's very attainable. And in dealing with the numbers that we've raised so far, it doesn't feel like much, which is amazing. And we'll get there. We have some, interested foundations and donors, and the chimps, they're so compelling, and to see them thriving like Diana has shown and like the other sanctuaries have shown, it makes it easy, I think, to give to support them.
And one question, Erica, that we have is the timetable to move the remaining chimps feeling pretty solid. Do you feel confident in that timetable?
Sure. I mean, it is dependent on the rate of funds coming in, and as well as arranging the transportation, which can be challenging in the summer months when it's too hot. That can impact either flying chimps or road transport. So there's a lot of details that we're working out right now. And that's why, I don't have specifics that I can share, but I know Save the Chimps is hoping to move their chimps this summer. Hopefully we can do that. We certainly are going to push for that. And Chimp Haven is hoping to move their 11 this fall.
And then I have sort of a dual question here from a couple of our participants. One is, how do you decide what chimps go where? How do you decide who stays together, who goes where? And then are there any chimps that were determined that they couldn't be moved because of health considerations? And if so, what happened?
Thankfully, to that second question, no, all the chimpanzees are healthy enough to move. And that's wonderful. I truly don't know what we would do if they, because the way station can't keep them forever. They just can't stay there. So we have to move them. And, there's extensive medical exams that goes on before each transport, and all the chimps have been found to be quite healthy. So that has not been an issue. I think Diana might be a good person to talk about determining which chimps go where, because she was involved in that for her sanctuary.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really helpful to have caregivers at Wildlife Way Station who know the chimps so well. So we had actually initially tried an integration with Willie Bee, Honeybee Mabe with our original group of 7, which didn't ultimately work out. And so we talked to On here at Wildlife Way Station about a group that might be a better fit for them. And he was super helpful. Just looking at personalities of chimps and, kind of personality traits and who might mesh with one another. And, they did have that history of knowing each other too. And I think the other thing is, different sanctuaries have different capabilities, and some of the larger sanctuaries like Chimp Haven and Save the Chimps, Chimp Haven in particular, they have the ability to try different social groups. So there's a plan B and a plan C and a plan D if the initial social groups don't necessarily work or aren't ideal. So I think that's really important. And most of the groups at Wildlife Way Station are pretty small. And so the goal is to get most of them into larger social groups so that they have more friends.
Right. Some of the sanctuaries that we worked with tend to specialize in either laboratory chimps like Chimp Haven and Save the Chimps, and some specialize in more of the former pets. So we sent a group of 8 to Center for Great Apes last fall, and they specialize in former pets. And a lot of the chimps that came from the way station that went there were the more, I guess you'd call them humanized. They were, certainly they have different traits than laboratory chimps do. And so it makes sense that Save the Chimps and Chimp Haven are going to be comfortable with working with the way station chimps, most of whom came from laboratories. So they'll understand sort of their needs and their temperaments and their histories. That's a great question.
I've heard that the chimps who were raised, at least for part of their life as a pet, that they don't really know how to be a chimpanzee with the other chimpanzees. And so they tend to get stared at and made fun of and those kinds of things. And so they tend to work better to be with other chimps who don't know how to be chimps as well. Is that your thoughts?
Yeah, there was one in particular that comes to mind named Jeter. And he really had struggled over the years to get along with other chimps at the way station because he was sort of an outcast. Right? He was very humanized and didn't really know the chimp body language and communication. And, he just didn't fit in with them. And so we were so excited to be able to fit him into the transport going to Center for Great Apes, because that's the perfect home for him. They know how to work with chimps like that. And they're going to focus on finding him a friend, even if it's just one. If he can't fit in with the whole group, great. If he can have one friend, that is a world of difference for him. So we look forward to sharing news as he gets acclimated in his new home and hopefully finds a buddy.
And a question to Kate Thompson, are there, and or Ed, are there any other animals still at the Wildlife Way Station that are waiting to move to their next forever home?
Yes, we have 2 wolf hybrids, Duchess and Luna, or Wednesday. The name is debatable. I've been told 2, but we are not giving up on them. I have a full force of people that are helping me find suitable places for them right now. They're difficult because they kind of fall right in between. It's too much wolf to be considered a dog, too much dog to be wanted by a wolf sanctuary. But I can assure you guys that these 2 girls won't fall through the cracks, and we are going to find them a home as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions from the group tonight? I've been seeing a lot of really wonderful comments from the supporters, and wondering if anybody else has anything else you want to hear from our group of experts.
While we wait, I can share too that we will have more insider briefings to focus on Save the Chimps, so you'll hear directly from them. We'll also have one about Chimp Haven, and you'll hear more from them. And our plans are certainly going to solidify a lot, even just in the next few weeks, I think. So there'll be a lot to talk about.
And a giant party somewhere towards the end of the year is what we're hoping for too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So someone asked what the surprise news was. The surprise news is that those 7 chimps are going to Save the Chimps. That is not public knowledge. You'll hear us talking a lot about it tomorrow, both us and Save the Chimps, and you'll see some news stories, I'm sure, and there'll be a lot of celebrating. Kate, there's a question about a wolf dog sanctuary in Canada. I don't know if you can see that in the chat.
Yes, I just answered. I am so grateful for any and every lead that I can get for this. So I'm making a note right now so that I can follow up with that. Thank you so much, Janet.
Yeah, and we'll take any other leads on the wolf dog hybrids. Thank you.
For any of you who are newer to the campaign, if you look at our website, chimpsinneed.org, there's another film you can watch. It's a short documentary, about 7 minutes, from filmmaker Sean Monson, and it's with Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara, who came to the way station to meet the chimps and learn about this effort. And it's really, really compelling. So I urge you to watch that. And luckily it's short. It won't take too much of your time, but it certainly tells the story.
I wanted to add something I was just thinking about as I was hearing or listening to Ed talk to, that there wasn't a shortage of other facilities stepping forward and saying, hey, we'll take those chimps or we'll take those animals, and they weren't good places. And so a lot of credit goes to Ed and to everyone working on this to vet the places where all the animals went, and to Kate too, just making sure that they landed in good places.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. I don't take any credit for that. And I didn't know anything about this sanctuary world when I started in this whole effort. You know, I'm a wildlife and fisheries biologist by training, and I just wasn't aware of some of the crazy things that happens at these sanctuaries. And I was working with our staff who were finding homes for these people and who knew the networks. And man, there were people coming out of the woodwork from everywhere, you know, sort of like, what's the show on TV? The Tiger King kind of, yeah. You know, these people, they were coming and just begging us for animals. And we were, of course, having to turn them away. And they were writing horrible things about the department because we were doing these horrible things. And it just really is amazing what animals have to go through, and the people that deal with animals have to go through to find good homes. I had no idea. So thank you for bringing that up. And I really want to thank our staff and others, you know, like Kate. And I know Kate's been looking for a good place for these wolf dog hybrids for a long time, because some of these places that want them are not places we want those animals to go. So it does make it just extra difficult. So thanks for bringing that up. It's a really good point.
Yeah, we are determined that these chimpanzees and the wolf dogs and all the other animals that were at the way station are going to homes that can meet their lifetime care needs forever, no more upheaval, right? No more turmoil. They'll be safe. They'll be safe and secure. Lots of wolf comments. That's great. I'm sure Kate's taking notes.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome.
I am. Thank you
Yes,
so much, you guys. I really appreciate it.
it would be so great if one of these worked out.
Yeah. I mean, we've made other miracles happen. I think we can get the wolves saved too.
Well, it'll happen. Yeah. But it's so tough. It's like what Kate said. Again, I didn't realize how difficult it is to place, a hybrid wolf dog, because there's so many places around the country that they're not allowed in most counties. You just can't find a place where it's legal to place them. So it's challenging.
Mm-hmm. We've had people comment too about the chimps and just say, well, why can't you just put them in a zoo? And
Mhm.
there's not space for them in zoos. I mean, it's much more challenging than I think people realize to rehome exotic animals
Mhm.
responsibly.
Right.
Yeah. And we're just so grateful that they weren't just dumped anywhere where they could go the quickest, because the chimpanzees and the wolves deserve better than that.
Yeah, and I want to say, thanks to everyone, but I know Kate, who's never been on one of these calls, she doesn't get enough credit, because if Kate didn't stick around, I literally don't know what would have happened with these animals, because the only reason that we could work so well and have the time to place these animals in the proper places was because Kate stuck around at great personal risk. So Kate, you deserve credit. People should know that. And, just kudos to you. Yeah.
It is amazing what Kate has pulled off since the way station shut. And I know there were a lot of scary days and weeks and months, but you didn't give up, and the chimps are going to be.
I'm going to cry.
I mean, everybody bailed. That's just the truth of the matter is, but besides the caretakers, there was no one there to run the show. And so again, without Kate, we wouldn't be here today. And I don't know what would happen to all those animals, seriously. So thank you.
I
We'll
think
have
we
to
can
have-
all safely say it's been a very, very steep learning curve for all of us. And we've all learned a lot.
Yeah.
For sure, right? We're going to come out a lot stronger, and the chimps will be better off, and that's all that
right.
matters. Oh, so nice to see all the encouraging words in the chat. We have an active group tonight. I love it. Well, I put the link, although it doesn't look like it hyperlinked in the chat. I'll try to type it again. And Cassie, I know at the end we'll put up the website for everyone to learn more, and know that starting tomorrow, if not later tonight, it will be updated to reflect the exciting news about the Sunshine 7 going to save the chimps.
And you're getting offers of help too for in the chat as well. We'll save the chat.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, is that possible? Because I feel rude. I keep looking over to it instead of
Yeah.
if there's any way we could save that. I need all of those names.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so
And Kate,
much.
let me know if we can run some of those down for you. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll track some down too. Yeah.
And anyone who wants to help in any other way, please just help us spread the word. I think it always surprises me how many people just in Los Angeles don't know that this need is there and that this happened. And so many people in the area have been to the way station before, either like on donor visits or class trips, or, for a number of reasons. But we need to make sure everyone knows about this, because so many caring people would help us if they just knew. So we're grateful for the media coverage we've had so far, but word of mouth goes really far too. Great. Any other questions for us tonight? Just a lot of gratitude, it seems.
Mhm.
I'll take it. We'll take it, right, guys?
That's right.
It feels really good to see that. Oh, thank you. Linda May is congratulating us on the campaign success. It really, we're close to the end, and we're going to have a big virtual celebration with our donors to celebrate getting there, because it takes all of us. So I guess we can